North America's highest peak, Denali, is a magnet for the world's most ambitious climbers. It's a place of breathtaking beauty and brutal and forgiving nature. In the summer of 2005, one man's dream to conquer it turned into a chilling mystery that remains unsolved to this day. This is the story of Scott McCandless and the frozen secret he took with him to his grave. Scott McCandless wasn't your average weekend warrior. At 41, he was the owner of a successful construction company in Colorado and had spent a decade honing his skills on the rugged peaks of the Rocky Mountains. He was a meticulous planner, a man who believed in preparation, not luck. For Denali, the ultimate challenge, he left nothing to chance. He hired the best of the best, Pemba Lakpa, a legendary Sherpa guide whose experience was as vast and solid as the Himalayas he called home. Their expedition started under a perfect Alaskan sky. The first few days were a textbook climb, clear weather, light winds, and a steady, confident pace. Scott, filled with the thrill of the adventure, filled his journal with entries buzzing with excitement. He wrote about the stunning vistas, the crisp mountain air, the feeling of being on top of the world. Beside him, Pemba moved with a quiet, efficient grace. A man of few words, his actions spoke volumes. He knew this mountain, he understood its language, its subtle shifts in mood. But Denali is a fickle beast. It guards its summit jealously. On the fifth day, the mountain showed its true face. The weather turned with terrifying speed. A massive storm rolled in, swallowing the peak in a thick, blinding blizzard. Visibility dropped to zero. The temperature plummeted to life-threatening lows. The world became a whirlwind of white and howling wind. It was in this moment of crisis that the first fracture appeared between the two men. Scott, driven by his ambition, the culmination of months of planning and significant financial investment, wanted to push on. He argued that they could find a window, that waiting would only drain their resources. Pemba, however, saw something different. His weathered eyes held the wisdom of countless storms survived. He recognized the telltale signs of a prolonged, deadly tempest. He knew that to move forward in these conditions was not bravery, but a death wish. He firmly, calmly, urged a retreat to a lower, safer camp. Their disagreement was short, but the air in their tiny tent grew thick with a tense and spoken conflict. The ambitious client versus the seasoned guide, two worlds, two perspectives. Colliding in a frozen hellscape, they hunkered down, waiting out the storm's initial fury, but the tension didn't though. For 2 days, they were trapped. The relentless wind a constant reminder of their precarious situation. On the morning of the 7th day, the storm raged on, but Scott had made up his mind. He was going for it, with or without his guide. Pemba offered one last, solemn warning, his voice grave. He pleaded with Scott to reconsider, to respect the mountain's power. But Scott's ambition had become an obsession. He geared up, stepped out of the tent, and disappeared into the white chaos. It was the last time Pemba, or anyone else, would ever see Scott McCandless alive. Pemba Lakpa waited. For 2 full days, he remained at their high-altitude camp, a lone figure in a world of ice and wind. The silence inside the tent was deafening, broken only by the storm's monstrous howl. He kept a constant vigil, hoping to see Scott's figure emerge from the blizzard. But Scott never returned. When the weather finally broke, revealing the mountain's scarred, icy face, Pemba knew something was terribly wrong. He descended and immediately raised the alarm. The search and rescue operation was launched, but the conditions were still incredibly treacherous. The teams battled the same brutal weather that had engulfed Scott and Pemba. Days later, they made a horrifying discovery. Far off the established climbing route, in a small, wine-scoured ice cave, they found him. The scene was something out of a nightmare. Scott McCandless was frozen solid, his body discovered upside down. His limbs were twisted in a way that suggested a final, frantic struggle against an unseen enemy. Or perhaps against the very ice that had become his tomb. His face, perfectly preserved by the extreme cold, was a mask of pure, silent terror. The discovery only deepened the mystery. The evidence found at the scene didn't add up. It was a puzzle with crucial pieces missing. A section of climbing rope was found nearby, but it had been cut cleanly, as if with a knife. Why would a climber cut their own lifeline? Key pieces of his climbing equipment, essentials for survival, were scattered around the cave, while other critical items were gone completely. His camera, which could have held the last images of his journey, was found, but it had stopped working hours before his estimated time of death. The digital witness was silent. With a dead client and a story that was hard to piece together, suspicion immediately fell on the only other person there, Pembalakta. The quiet, stoic Sherpa was arrested. The man who had scaled the world's deadliest peaks was now at the center of a storm of accusation and speculation. The media latched on. Was this a case of a disagreement that turned deadly? Did the guide, in a fit of rage or desperation, abandon his client? Or worse, did he have a hand in his death? The pressure was immense. Yet, the investigation hit a wall of ice as solid as Denali itself. Pemba offered no confession. He provided no detailed explanation beyond the initial account of their disagreement. His silence was as profound and unreadable as the mountain gorges he navigated. The autopsy report further complicated things. It revealed strange injuries on Scott's body, wounds and contusions that weren't entirely consistent with a typical mountaineering fall or exposure. They hinted at a struggle, but with what or whom? Ultimately, with no confession, no definitive proof of foul play, and only circumstantial evidence, the case against Pemba collapsed. The official cause of death was recorded as a tragic mountaineering accident. The case was closed, but the whispers never truly faded. The questions hang in the thin mountain air to this day. Was it a calculated murder on the mountain, a fatal clash of wills at 20,000 feet? Or was it something else? A bizarre, desperate accident where a panicked Scott, lost and disoriented in the storm, became trapped in the ice cave, his final moments a frantic, futile fight for survival. The truth, it seems, remains on Denali, buried under layers of snow and ice, a permanent, frozen secret at the top of the world. Thank you so much for watching. The mountains hold many stories, and some, like this one, may never be fully told. If you found this mystery as compelling as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the edge of our world. Stay curious, and stay safe out there.